You are resting now. Your limbs have softened. Your breath has slowed. The world around you is quiet. Yet somewhere, far beyond the edge of your room, a strange connection begins to hum. You cannot see it, but it is there. A delicate thread, thinner than light, stretches between two particles. They do not speak. They do not touch, but they move as one. Close your eyes. Let your mind drift upward, beyond your ceiling, beyond the clouds, beyond even the stars that shimmer faintly in the dark. Out here, space is wide and endless, yet hidden in its emptiness are tiny mysteries. Particles no larger than whispers. And some of these particles are not alone. Imagine two flecks of dust, born in the same moment from the same ancient breath of light. Imagine that though they are cast into opposite corners of the universe, they still remember each other. When one turns, the other follows, not because they see or sense or signal, but because something deeper binds them. This is entanglement, a thread that connects without pulling, a knowing without touching. Science tells us that every particle spins. It has a kind of orientation, like a compass needle or a dancer mid-twirl. And sometimes, when two particles are created together, their spins are forever linked. If one points left, the other will point right. If one flips, so does its twin. No matter how far they drift apart, the balance holds. This is not intuition. This is not legend. It is experiment, repeated again and again in laboratories filled with silence and lasers and light. Physicists split particles, send them in opposite directions, and find, again and again, that a change in one leads to a change in the other. Instantly, without warning, without cause that we can measure. It is as though space itself forgets to separate them. You float deeper into this image now, like a feather settling onto still water. The more we learn, the more this strange harmony appears not just as a trick of particles, but as a clue, an echo of something larger. A truth that separation is not as real as it seems. Think of your own life. You are one body, yet within you, signals travel in tangled threads. Your brain speaks to your hands, your heart to your breath. Distance does not mean disconnection. In fact, many of the most essential things, love, memory, trust, are things that stretch between hearts, across rooms, through time. Perhaps the universe feels something similar. Perhaps these particles are like thoughts passing between distant stars. Perhaps the cosmos remembers how everything once began together, in a single bright unfolding. We call it the Big Bang, that first flare of being, when all matter, all energy, all possibility, burst outward from a single point. Every atom in your body was once packed into that single, glowing moment. The iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the oxygen in your breath, all of it began in one place, then flew apart. But what if it never truly separated? What if some secret link remains? Entanglement suggests that the universe is not a collection of isolated pieces, but a single breathing whole. When one part turns, another answers. When one thread is tugged, the entire fabric ripples. And still, scientists were not always certain. For years, many believed there must be some hidden force, a signal moving faster than light, or a kind of code known only to particles at birth. But experiment after experiment stripped these theories away. What remained was stranger. No hidden message, no delay, only connection. You might wonder, how far can these threads stretch? In one experiment, particles were entangled on opposite sides of a mountain. In another, across a satellite beam reaching beyond the atmosphere. Each time, the link held firm. Even light, the fastest traveler we know, could not explain it. Entanglement simply is. It is as if the particles are not two things, but one thing, wearing two faces. Like a song played on two instruments in different rooms, sounding the same melody together. Or two dreams that wake with the same image. A unity that slips beneath our logic, but feels deeply familiar. And as you lie here, listening, breathing, maybe you too feel that pull. Not to a particle, but to the quiet idea that you are not alone. That something about you echoes in other places. That your thoughts, your presence, your being, belong to something wider than just this single moment. There is a comfort in that. A softness in imagining that even the smallest things do not forget each other. That even light, when split, seeks its twin. And so, we begin our journey not with answers, but with wonder. With the gentle tug of a thread that stretches through space. Invisible yet unbreakable. You cannot see where it ends, but you feel that it leads somewhere. Somewhere quieter, deeper. The question lingers like a whisper at the edge of sleep. If you touch one, how does the other know? You are lying still, and the quiet inside you begins to deepen. It is not just the quiet of your room, or your breath, or the soft weight of your limbs. It is the quiet of knowing that there is something more. Not louder, but wider. A stillness that connects. A stillness that listens. Tonight, we go deeper. You have already glimpsed the thread. The invisible line stretched between two particles. Now, feel what it means for one to move, and the other to follow. No wire connects them. No echo travels between them. And yet, in perfect harmony, one twist is answered by another. This is quantum entanglement in its most mysterious form. Not a message sent, not a cause followed by an effect, but a shared condition, like two lanterns flickering with the same flame. No matter how far they are carried from the fire that lit them, you drift now into a memory that is not your own. It belongs to the universe, old and shimmering, from a time when particles were born in pairs. They burst outward like twins tossed into opposite corners of space. But they did not forget each other. Even when one is caught in a machine, its state measured and turned, the other, perhaps 1,000 miles away, responds. Instantly, as though no distance ever stretched between them. As though they were still the same breath, split in two. You might imagine them as two dancers who have never lost rhythm, even as walls rise between them. They cannot see each other. They do not call out. But when one spins, the other knows to follow. It is easy to think of this as communication, but in truth, it is not. They do not speak. They do not wait. They are not reacting. They are simply revealing something they always shared. It is not the spin that surprises us. It is the togetherness. The fact that the outcome of one is tied to the outcome of the other. No matter where, no matter when. And more deeply, that nothing between them seems to carry the message. Not even light is fast enough to explain it. Light, our faithful courier of cause and effect, takes time to travel even the smallest distance. But this happens with no delay. It challenges everything you have been told about space and time, about how things work, how things follow. You were taught that cause must come before effect, that every action must pass through the world like a ripple in water. But entanglement does not ripple. It leaps. It appears. It bypasses the middle entirely, like flipping a coin here and seeing it land as heads, while across the ocean, another coin lands as tails. Not by chance, but by design. Not because one caused the other, but because they are two halves of the same event. One whole, seen in two mirrors. You wonder how it can be, and yet, the more we learn, the more the question shifts. Not how can it be, But how could it be otherwise? Maybe we are the ones who are slow. Maybe it is not the universe that is tangled, but our ways of seeing it that are too neat. Think of how you feel someone's presence, even from far away, not through words or messages or any material thing. Just knowing when someone you love is hurt, you feel it. When someone you miss thinks of you, you sense it. Perhaps the universe is like that, not ruled by cold distances, but threaded with something warmer, not defined by space, but by relationship. Two particles born together, remain together, not by force, but by memory, not by push or pull, but by belonging. Physicists can test it. They set up machines in separate cities, measure spins and polarizations, run the numbers over and over again, and still, the pattern remains. What one becomes, the other reflects, as if the decision is not made here or there, but everywhere at once. It feels like a secret, not a secret hidden from us, but one hidden within us, because inside your own body, inside the tiny atoms that make you, are particles that once shared moments with others, moments that may still echo, faintly, across time. You may be entangled in ways you will never know, not just with people or places or memories, but with particles, with possibilities, with choices that have not yet arrived. You are more connected than you think, more spacious than you seem, and the idea of here and there begins to feel a little less certain. So much of what we are taught relies on things being separate. This is me, and that is you. This is now, and that was then. But perhaps entanglement is whispering a different truth, that we are never truly apart, that there is a kind of closeness that distance cannot undo. That connection may not be something we create, but something we discover. You sink further into this thought, letting it warm you, not with answers, but with wonder, not with proof, but with peace. For what greater comfort is there than to know that even in the vast silence of space, there are bonds that do not break? And even if we cannot see the threads, we feel them, and they hold, and they last. Somewhere, a particle turns, and its twin, far away, yet never apart, turns with it. But how do we know this is real? Who saw it first, and how? And what does it mean for everything we believe about reality? We step now into a room of stillness and light, where experiments speak in silence, and the universe begins to show its hand. You step softly now into a room that hums with quiet intention. It is late, and the world outside is still. But inside this laboratory, something precise and beautiful is taking place. The lights are low. The air carries the faint, metallic scent of circuits warmed by current. Lasers slice silently through space, like strings of light plucked in a dark symphony. You are here, not just to listen, but to witness. This is where the whispers of particles are finally heard. Not in words, but in behaviors too synchronized to ignore. Not long ago, these experiments were dismissed as strange suggestions, the stuff of thought experiments and unsettling math. But now, you watch with your own quiet awe as entanglement proves itself real. Again and again and again, you walk slowly between the instruments, past lenses polished like moonlit water, past mirrors angled to send photons dancing toward their destiny. This lab is a temple of silence and precision, built not for noise, but for noticing. A detector clicks gently in the corner, like the universe tapping once on a drum. Two particles, once born together, are now flying apart. Not wildly, but deliberately. They move in opposite directions, guided through fiber optic threads that carry them far from their shared beginning. They cannot see one another. They cannot speak. And yet, at the very moment one is measured, its spin collapsing into a direction like a compass needle choosing north, the other responds, even if it is miles away, even if no signal, no hint, no hidden wire could possibly pass between them in time. You are not watching a performance. You are watching a discovery that repeats itself with the patience of stars. Each trial, each pair of entangled particles speaks the same quiet truth. This truth is not loud. It does not shout or crash. It reveals itself in statistics, in patterns too consistent to be chance. Thousands of measurements, aligning beyond the reach of coincidence. This is how science listens, not with belief, but with attention, not with hopes, but with questions, measured, repeated, recorded, and the answers come not in thunder, but in stillness. In twin particles spinning like matched dancers, their symmetry echoing something ancient and intimate. You stand near a physicist now. She watches the monitor, blinking slowly, sipping cold tea from a chipped mug. There is no need to rush. This kind of work waits on the universe's own pace. Her eyes track the readout. A spike here, a twin response there. She does not smile, but something in her shoulders softens, as if she has heard a line from a familiar lullaby. Once, people said entanglement could not be real, that no two things could be this deeply linked without some trick, some buried variable pulling the strings. But the lab proved otherwise. It showed that the particles do not lie. They spin in agreement not because they are forced to, but because they were always written to. You lean closer to a glass chamber where photons are split. Two rays of light, one red, one violet, shot from the same crystal like twin sparks from a flint. Each travels into its own maze of mirrors and paths, yet they emerge with the same strange coordination. This is not superstition. It is not science fiction. It is technology. It is mathematics. It is reality. And it is delicate. You notice how the entire experiment is protected from wind, from heat, from noise, even from the tremble of passing footsteps. The lab breathes carefully, so as not to disturb the quiet harmony. Because quantum behavior is shy. It hides when you stare too hard. But when you learn to observe gently, to measure without demanding, then it begins to sing. And the song it sings is one of connection, of things that remain tied, not by thread or chain, but by memory. The physicist adjusts a dial, and the laser beam sharpens to a finer point. More focused, more precise. The more refined the tool, the clearer the echo. You begin to understand. Entanglement is not a glitch in reality. It is not a flaw. It is a feature. A kind of grammar the universe uses when it wants to say something softly. And what is it saying? That what happens in one place can shape what happens elsewhere. That two things, when deeply linked, remain part of each other, even when they are pulled apart. It sounds like love. It sounds like memory. It sounds like something you have felt before, but could never explain. You watch as the trial ends. The data saved, the detector's power down. The room does not change much, but something in you has. You saw the universe behave as if space itself were less important than relationship, as if knowing could move faster than light, as if particles could keep a promise made at birth. You leave the lab slowly, your footsteps quiet on the polished floor. Outside, night still blankets the world, but now it feels less empty, because in that quiet, controlled place, among wires and mirrors and waiting screens, you saw truth unfolding not in thunderclaps, but in whispers. And now, The question lingers in your thoughts like a final note held too long. If the particles speak in this hidden language, then what did Einstein hear when he first caught its echo? You find yourself in an older world now, quiet and warm with the amber scent of paper and lamp oil. The ticking of a small clock keeps time with your breath. Shelves line the walls, heavy with books, some open, others bookmarked with slips of thought. In the middle of the room, a desk glows softly beneath a dim bulb. This is Einstein's study. You are not intruding. You are witnessing. He is here, seated, his fingers folded beneath his chin. Outside the window, snow falls gently. Inside, ideas drift just as slowly. He is not working out equations right now. He is thinking, not calculating, but wondering. And somewhere in the middle of this stillness, something has unsettled him. He called it Spuckhaft Fernwirkung, spooky action at a distance. You can almost hear him say it, with a curl of doubt in his tone. To Einstein, the idea that two particles could affect each other across vast space, without any signal, felt wrong. Too strange, too loose, too uncaused. For all his genius, he loved clarity. He believed the universe had rules, and that the rules made sense, even if we had not yet learned them all. But quantum mechanics was testing that belief, especially this idea of entanglement. He had helped birth quantum theory, but now it was growing wild. Too wild, perhaps, for the tidy world of cause and effect he trusted. He once said, "God does not play dice with the universe." And yet, the dice kept rolling, and they kept landing in patterns too strange to ignore. You settle into a chair across from him. He does not see you, but he senses the presence of reflection. The room itself invites dialogue. With time, with science, with the unknown. Einstein, along with two colleagues, proposed a thought experiment. A way to show that quantum theory was incomplete. They imagined two particles, once together, flying apart, and measuring one would instantly reveal something about the other. But if that were true, if information traveled faster than light, if particles could know about distant changes instantly, then something about space itself was broken. He did not accept that. He believed the theory must be hiding something, something local, something contained, some hidden variable tucked inside the particles from the start. To him, entanglement was a clever illusion, a trick of math, not a reflection of reality. You look at him now, not with criticism, but with compassion. To question is not to deny. To doubt is to care deeply about the truth. His challenge to the quantum world was not dismissal, but a gift. It opened the door to experiments that could prove whether the weirdness was real. And in time, it was. Still, it's worth pausing here, in this study, in this moment, because disbelief is part of discovery, because the path to understanding winds through resistance, and not every question wants to be answered right away. You watch as Einstein stands and paces slowly. He looks at the fire. The flames flicker. Small, warm, uncertain. He does not know yet that his spooky action will one day be shown again and again, not just in ideas, but in labs full of light and glass and time-measuring clocks. He does not yet see that his challenge gave the quantum world its strongest test, and that it would pass. But maybe he senses something else. That science is not just about what fits, but about what stretches us. That some truths arrive slowly, not as answers, but as shifts in the way we listen. You listen now, too, to the sound of pages turning, to the quiet scratch of pencil against margin, to the weight of a mind both curious and cautious. Einstein believed in beauty, in laws that held the stars in orbit and the planets in rhythm. He trusted that nature was ordered, even when our understanding was not. And that belief still matters. It reminds us that mystery is not the enemy of clarity, but often its companion. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the warmth of the study wrap around you. Not everything needs to be solved to be felt. Not every question needs to be answered to be real. Einstein's discomfort with entanglement did not diminish its truth. Instead, it made the journey toward that truth richer, more human. We need skeptics as much as dreamers. We need the ones who ask, but how can that be? Because sometimes that question leads us further than any answer. You open your eyes again, and he is seated once more. His brow is still furrowed, but the fire is steady, and the night outside is deepening. And perhaps, if you listen closely, you can hear the gentle whisper of ideas, not yet accepted, not yet complete, but on their way. He leans back, not in defeat, but in thought, because somewhere, beyond this room, someone else will pick up his question and ask it a different way. And from that asking, a new voice will rise, not of disagreement, but of refinement. A voice that will take Einstein's doubt and answer it with clarity. Someone who will look at the question not with resistance, but with a quiet sense of possibility, and ring a bell that will never quite stop echoing. You walk slowly now into the space between ideas and proofs, a place where gentle minds ask sharp questions, where curiosity sits quietly beside the machinery of logic. In this space, a man named John Bell waits. He does not shout. He does not seek fame. He writes with precision, with care, as if every symbol he draws might be the outline of a deeper truth. Bell is not trying to be revolutionary. He is trying to be clear. Clear in a world where entangled particles dance across miles, and yet no one agrees on what that dance means. You sit near his desk, not cluttered, but thoughtful. Papers folded into angles of thought. Equations written not to impress, but to explore. The question in front of him is simple in shape, but deep in consequence. Can hidden variables explain entanglement? Can particles hold some private code, a script written at the start, telling them how to respond later, making it look like magic, when really it is just a trick? Many hoped so. Even Einstein had wished for it. Because if hidden variables were real, then the world could remain comfortably local. Action could follow reaction. Distance could stay meaningful. But Bell looks at this idea, and instead of resisting it or defending it, he simply asks, how would we know? And then, he does something extraordinary. He writes a test, not a dream, not a metaphor, a real, measurable inequality, a mathematical bell that would ring only if the universe played fair. If particles were using hidden variables, secret instructions tucked inside them, then they would have to obey Bell's inequality. They would show patterns that matched cause and effect. They would not violate the rules. But if the inequality was broken, if the data curved outside the expected range, then the universe was not playing fair. It was playing quantum. You lean in closer, watching the shape of the theorem unfold. It is not flashy, but it is exact. Bell's work becomes a lighthouse. Suddenly, scientists do not have to argue philosophy anymore. They can measure, they can run experiments, compare numbers, and see, with clarity, what kind of world we live in. And when those experiments are run, years later, in quiet labs lit by lasers, the results speak softly but firmly. Bell's inequality is violated. The universe does not obey classical rules. There are no hidden variables. No secret codes, only entanglement, real, immediate, and irreducible. You sit with this for a moment, because the world has just changed, or rather, it has revealed itself. What was once spooky becomes confirmed. What was once a philosophical discomfort becomes an experimental fact. Bell, who passed before some of these results arrived, never shouted his victory. He remained soft-spoken, thoughtful, content to ask a clean question, and let the world answer it. You breathe in slowly, imagining what it feels like to make a truth visible, to carve out a space where reality cannot hide. Bell's theorem is not a hammer. It is a tuning fork. It resonates gently through the structure of space, through the deep symmetry of how things behave when they are observed. And what it tells us, over and over again, is that the universe is more entangled than any script could account for. Two particles do not just mirror each other because of a secret note passed long ago. They remain connected because the universe itself is not a place of parts. It is a place of wholes. You are part of that wholeness. Your thoughts, your body, your breath. They are not isolated lines in the story. They are chords in the same composition. Bell's quiet brilliance did not come from wanting to prove the strange. It came from wanting to listen. And the universe, when asked the right question, answered. You hear it now, not loudly, but clearly. A bell that rings without sound, echoing across space, shaking nothing, and changing everything. You imagine two particles, separated by oceans or even planets, responding to a single measurement, not by copying, but by being the same event, seen from different sides. Bell's work does not explain how this happens, but it proves that it does. And in science, that is enough to begin building new dreams. Dreams of quantum communication, of teleportation of states, of computers that think in entangled logic, of worlds where information is not sent, but shared. You breathe in again, noticing how even your own body is a system of coordinated parts, heart and lungs and nerves in careful balance. Nothing in you works alone, and perhaps nothing in the universe does either. Bell did not close the book on this mystery. He opened it wider, and now we read it together, one page at a time, one gentle truth after another. And so the question shifts again, not whether entanglement is real, but how far its fingers reach. If the universe chooses entanglement, then what does that say about you? And what kind of knowing might arise? In a universe that feels itself all at once, we drift now toward the edges of that idea, where the cosmos begins to resemble a mirror, and the reflection staring back seems strangely familiar. You rest now, deeper than before. Your limbs are heavy, wrapped in stillness. Your thoughts float freely, unanchored, like lanterns adrift in a night sky. And in this quiet place, your mind opens to a different kind of seeing, not with eyes, but with presence, not to observe, but to feel, to sense the shape of something vast and unseen, as though space itself is holding its breath around you. Above you, stars shimmer like scattered sparks from a single fire. But what if they are not scattered? What if they are not separate at all? What if they are mirrors, each reflecting a different angle of the same face? You drift gently into this thought. Could the universe know itself? Could it be aware, not in the way you are, but in a deeper, more distributed way? A kind of consciousness made of connection? Entanglement whispers of this possibility. Because if one change here is mirrored there, without signal, without cause, then perhaps there is not truly far. Perhaps all things exist in a single unfolding, not like beads on a string, but like ripples in a single pond. Touch one, and all feel it. Shift one part, and the whole pattern adjusts. Imagine the universe not as a collection of stars and dust, but as one great song, where every particle is a note, and entanglement is the harmony that binds them. This is not fantasy. This is what quantum physics gently points toward, a reality where information is not passed, but shared across distance without traveling at all. You are part of this system. You are not a speck lost in the cosmos. You are a fold in the fabric, woven from the same thread as galaxies. And so, when a particle shifts 1,000 light years away, and its twin here responds, you are not watching magic. You are watching memory, a memory the universe holds of itself. In every pair of entangled particles, the cosmos seems to say, I remember who we are. This memory does not fade. It does not thin with distance. It remains sharp, even when time stretches, even when space bends. The more we study, the more we see a kind of quiet intelligence in the design, not like a mind sitting outside of nature, but like awareness arising within it, awareness made of pattern, of symmetry, of echo, of recognition. Think of how your own mind works. Your body is made of countless parts, and yet, when your finger touches a surface, your entire self responds. When your eyes see light, your thoughts change. When your heart races, your breath adapts. You are not many things. You are one. And yet, within that unity, countless connections hum beneath the surface. Could the universe be the same? Not one thing watching many, but one thing being many, and remembering always that it is one. Entanglement may be its way of never forgetting, of staying in touch with itself, of ensuring that even in its most distant places, its reflection remains whole. You breathe deeply now, feeling how your chest rises like the ocean. Even your breath is part of this. The oxygen in your lungs was once inside stars. The atoms in your bones were forged in the cores of suns. You are not just made of the universe. You are made as the universe, a pattern repeated at a human scale. So when you feel wonder, perhaps the universe is feeling it too. When you ask a question, perhaps you are not reaching out, but reaching in. You float now through this idea, slow and calm, like drifting through a sea of mirrored stars. And each mirror reflects a slightly different you, a possibility you did not live, a path you did not walk, a moment that was never yours but could have been. They are not ghosts. They are not illusions. They are glimpses of what it means to be part of something so big it must explore itself in every direction. Entanglement reminds you that nothing is fully lost. Every connection, once formed, still hums. Every pattern, once danced, leaves an echo. Somewhere, a photon turns. Its twin, light years away, aligns. And something between them says, I remember you. You carry that memory too. In your blood, in your breath, in the way your thoughts ripple through your nerves and turn into words or silence or sleep. There is no edge between you and the universe, only a curve, only a soft blending, like color fading into dusk. You lie still now, but inside you, 1,000 systems are working together, cells sharing information, electrons weaving through molecules, signals moving without sound. You are a quiet cosmos. You are a small, living model of the very mystery you wonder about. And perhaps this is what it means. for the universe to know itself, not with one mind, but with many, not with one voice, but with countless whispers saying, I am here. As you rest in that idea, your thoughts begin to slow again, not from sleepiness, but from understanding. You are not alone in the dark. You are part of the dark, part of the light, part of the turning of things that always, somehow, stay in step. And now, just before your breath begins to drift into dreams, you find yourself wondering if light itself can be entangled, if photons can remember one another across space. Then what happens when they fall in love? You are floating again, this time, not through space, but through light. Soft, weightless beams move beside you, not blinding, not harsh, but gentle as breath, as if the universe is exhaling stars. These are photons, tiny packets of light, the smallest expression of brightness. They do not carry mass, but they carry energy, and with it, a kind of message. You follow two of them now. They were born together, from a single source, like a flame that splits without flickering. Their journey begins not in silence, but in harmony. They know one another, not by memory, but by state, a shared spin, a shared phase, a shared rhythm. They are entangled, not by touch, but by origin. Two photons dancing apart, yet still echoing the same music. You watch as they drift farther and farther, slipping through air, through fiber, through space itself. They travel at light speed, the very edge of time's pace. And yet, no matter how far they go, they remain together. One turns, the other answers. No signal, no delay, just response. It is like watching love letters being exchanged. Without paper, without hands, without anything visible at all. One changes its polarization, a kind of tilt, like the angle of a bird's wings in flight. And in that moment, its twin, far away, tilts too. You cannot see the cause, but you see the pattern. Every shift here is echoed there. Not because one commands the other, but because they are two syllables of the same word. This is entanglement through light, the poetry of photons. Experiments repeat this again and again. Split a photon, send its halves down different paths, measure one, and watch the other fall into step. Scientists build intricate paths for them. Mirrors, beam splitters, fiber loops, like tiny obstacle courses for light. Yet no matter how complex the maze, the connection holds. You begin to feel it now. That entanglement is not just science. It is art. It is choreography. Two dancers, separated by a stage, but still in perfect time. In quantum communication, this connection becomes more than metaphor. It becomes tool, secure, unbreakable, a way to know something has been touched without knowing what the touch was. It is called quantum key distribution, a method where two people, far apart, can share a secret without speaking. Because if someone tries to look in, the connection changes. The dancers lose their rhythm. The spell is broken. In this way, entangled photons are like sentries. They protect, not by fighting, but by watching, by being known. You think about letters now, how they carry meaning through space, through miles, through silence. A photon cannot write, but it can turn, and in that turn, it says, I remember you. It says, we are still one, even across vacuum, even across time, even across the deep hush of space. What is a photon, really? Not a dot, not a speck, but a wave, and a point, and a possibility. It exists only when you look. It travels in all directions, until you decide to see it. And when you do, there it is, certain, whole, and its twin, wherever it is, settles too. That is the mystery and the beauty. Not just that it works, but that it does so in silence. You begin to understand that silence is not absence. It is another kind of language. Photons speak through stillness. Their message is not shouted. It is felt through symmetry, through timing, through the invisible thread that binds what was once one. You wonder now about your own messages, the ones you send without knowing, in the way you glance, in the way your mood shifts, in the way someone far from you feels your change. Perhaps entanglement lives not only in photons, but in the way life leans, the way people who love one another turn together, even in different rooms. Perhaps it lives in the idea that distance doesn't always mean separation, because some things, once connected, remain in tune, even across great silence. You are still following the photons now. They slow, not in speed, but in your mind's vision, like snowflakes caught in a beam of moonlight. One reaches a detector. It flickers. The other, thousands of kilometers away, settles too. No wire, no whisper, only response. You watch this for a while. No drama, no noise, just certainty. Two tiny lights, knowing when to shine. And in that knowing, you see a mirror of yourself, of how something in you longs to be in step with something more. You do not need to speak to feel this. You do not need proof to trust the rhythm, because now you have seen how light itself remembers. And just before you begin to drift, you find yourself wondering if particles of light can stay linked across oceans of space. Then what quiet links remain in the soft electric hum of your own body's light? You lie still now, your breath soft and steady. You are warm, quiet, and surrounded by gentle darkness. The outside world fades, but something else awakens. Not outside you, but within. Close your eyes and listen. Beneath your skin, inside your bones, beneath even thought, there is motion. Tiny, trembling motion. Atoms hum, electrons shift. Your body, so seemingly solid, is not still at all. You are made of billions of cells, and each cell is made of molecules, and each molecule of atoms, each one a miniature world of dancing parts. Somewhere in this quiet complexity, the quantum world still moves. Not just in stars, not just in lasers or distant labs, but in you. You are not separate from it. You are part of it, woven from it. And as strange as it may sound, the mysteries of entanglement may be unfolding within your very body. Science is beginning to see hints of this. In plants, in birds, and even in brains. Start with something simple. Sunlight, falling on a leaf. Photosynthesis, a process so familiar we barely think about it. But inside that leaf, when sunlight hits a molecule, an electron must find the best path, the most efficient route, to pass its energy along. It could stumble, it could bounce, but it does not. It flows smoothly, like a river finding the sea. And how? Scientists believe the electron may explore all paths at once. A quantum behavior. It tests each route, not in sequence but simultaneously, and then chooses the best. It is not just efficient, it is precise. Nature, at its tiniest scale, uses quantum rules to fuel green life. And what about birds? You picture one now, wings outstretched, gliding across the sky without hesitation. Migrating birds travel thousands of miles. No map, no compass, yet they return to the same trees, the same shorelines, as if pulled by something invisible. Inside their eyes, there may be a molecule, sensitive to the Earth's magnetic field, not by magnetism alone, but through quantum entanglement. Pairs of electrons, spinning together, may help the bird feel where north is, not by seeing it, but by sensing it, by following a kind of internal whisper. And if birds feel that whisper, what about you? Inside your own brain, electrons jump between molecules. Signals leap across synapses. Could entanglement play a role here too? Could the smallest pieces of thought be stitched with quantum thread? We do not know yet, but the question is real, and the possibility that consciousness, in part, may arise from entangled systems is not fantasy. It is a door, just slightly open. Your thoughts, your feelings, the flicker of memory, or the warmth of a dream, they may echo patterns that are not fully local. They may arise from rhythms woven throughout your whole body, or even beyond it. You feel it sometimes, without needing proof. That sense of something deeper, a knowing you cannot explain, a moment of clarity that does not feel calculated, but felt. Entanglement, if it lives in you, may not be something you control. It may be something you listen to, a subtle harmony between parts of you that remain mysteriously aware of each other, like a bell struck in your heart that rings in your fingertips. As you breathe now, picture your cells as tiny symphonies, each atom a note, each bond a chord, and scattered throughout, pairs of particles still tied, despite being apart, despite being moved, despite being wrapped in warm, human form. The idea is simple, that what begins together remains connected no matter how complex the shape it takes. You too began as one cell, then two, then many, all dividing, but never truly forgetting. And perhaps that memory of being one is still folded inside you. Perhaps some part of you still knows what the other parts are doing, not because of nerves or blood, but because of something quieter, something woven into the quantum breath of life. You turn gently in bed, as if moved by something unseen. You are not conscious of it, but maybe a molecule in your arm just responded to a flicker in your chest, a quantum nudge, a shared state, a silent message, carried not across nerves, but across space inside space. This is not a certainty, but it is a wonder, and wonder too is a way of knowing. You carry in you not just memory and matter, but motion, the quiet choreography of countless invisible dances, and some of those dances may still be in step with partners they can no longer see. So tonight, as your breath deepens, as your cells hum their quiet tune, you can let yourself feel the strange comfort of being connected in ways you do not need to understand. You are not apart from the quantum world. You are one of its expressions. You are not watching entanglement. You may be living it. And as your body softens into rest, you may find yourself wondering if you can carry entanglement within you. What happens when distance disappears completely? You are lying still, but something in you begins to stretch. Not your limbs, not your spine, but your sense of where you are. You are not drifting away. You are widening. The room around you softens at the edges. You feel yourself both here, and not only here. And somewhere deep in your mind, a question stirs like a thread caught in a breeze. What is distance, really? We speak of it so often. Miles, hours, boundaries, borders. But what if these are just ways to make sense of things too big for our hands? What if distance is a language, but not the truth itself? Entanglement does not obey our maps. It does not ask how far apart two things are. It does not check whether something is near or far. It simply is. And in being so, it reveals that separation is not always real. In the quantum world, when two particles become entangled, they remain in relationship, no matter how far they are taken from one another. This isn't a metaphor. It is measurable. You can move one particle to a mountaintop and the other to the sea, and still, when you measure one, the other responds. Not after a delay, not after a journey, but instantly, as if space did not matter, as if space, that vastness we've always feared and measured, was not a wall, but a veil. Imagine holding one end of a ribbon, and your friend holds the other. You are separated by oceans, but the ribbon does not stretch. It simply exists, folded in a way you cannot see. This is what entanglement suggests. That space may not be what we think. That here and there may be different faces of the same thing. You are not just a body in a place. You are part of a pattern, and patterns do not live in single points. They stretch, they repeat, they echo. In this way, you begin to understand. Connection is not made. It is uncovered. Entangled particles do not need to send messages. They do not reach. They do not call. They simply respond. Because there is no in-between. They are not two things. They are one thing, seen in two places. You might wonder now, how many other distances in your life are not as real as they feel? A friend you miss, a memory that won't return, a dream that seems out of reach. Perhaps these things are not far. Perhaps they are just waiting for you to turn toward them. Entanglement teaches us this. That movement is not always necessary for connection. That closeness can exist without proximity. And in a world like that, loneliness begins to loosen its grip. Because if two particles can remain linked across the void, then maybe love can too. Maybe thought can. Maybe hope can. You picture someone now, someone far from you. And instead of imagining a space between you, you imagine a thread, not visible, not tangible, but real nonetheless. A quantum thread, delicate, but unbreakable, not stretched by miles, only quiet between moments. In the silence, you feel how presence is not always physical. Sometimes, it is simply knowing. A steady sense that something is with you, even when you cannot name it. And now, you look again at the stars, each one a light year away. But you no longer feel small. You feel included, as if the stars are not watching you, but watching with you. Perhaps the universe folds space, not to confuse us, but to teach us that closeness is a kind of truth. That there are ways of knowing that do not rely on distance. Your breath slows. The space between your thoughts grows wide, but not empty. It is filled now with this understanding that you are not alone in the dark. Even in silence, something moves with you. Even in stillness, something stays near. You begin to feel how soft the boundaries are. Between you and the world, between now and then, between here and wherever there might be. And this softness is not confusion. It is peace. It is the letting go of hardness. In how you define place, the moon does not feel far tonight, nor the ocean, nor the person whose name came quietly into your mind. Because if distance is a dream, then waking from it means remembering. That connection was never lost. You are part of a field that listens. You are stitched into a pattern that holds all things gently, even when they move. And so you rest in this thought. That quantum entanglement might not just describe particles. It might describe belonging. Not the kind you earn, but the kind you are. As you close your eyes now, you do not fall away from the world. You fall into it, deeper, truer. And with that, a new curiosity stirs. If nothing is truly distant, if space itself folds to keep us close, then what happens when the universe begins to whisper back? You are lying on the very edge of thought now. Not lost, not confused, just still. A place where ideas begin to loosen, where understanding shifts from explanation to experience. Here, you are quiet enough to hear something deeper. Not a sound exactly, but a response, as if the universe has been listening. This entire time, all that you have learned about particles spinning together, about photons sending invisible messages across the void, about atoms inside your body still remembering the moment they split, was never meant to be just information. It was always an invitation to feel, to wonder, to remember that even silence carries meaning. You float gently in this space now, this place where science begins to sound like poetry, where theories no longer need proof to be felt, where truth hums softly under your skin, like the faint glow of stars beneath your breath. Entanglement, you realize, is not only about particles, it is about listening to what connects, to what cannot be seen, but somehow is still known. You think of all the moments in life when you felt something shift, even before it happened, the way your heart paused, before news arrived, the way your thoughts reached someone, and later they said, "I was just thinking of you." We call it coincidence, but perhaps it is resonance, not irrational, but invisible. Perhaps the world is not a machine of separate parts, but a body, and we are cells within it, each sensing the movement of the whole. You rest deeper into this knowing. There is no urgency here, no race to define or decode, only the slow unfolding of a universe that has always known how to listen back. The stars above you do not just shine, they shimmer in patterns that echo the same principles you carry in your very blood. The hydrogen in your bones was forged in ancient suns. The iron in your blood was birthed in a dying star's collapse. So when you lie beneath the night sky, you are not looking at something foreign. You are looking at your relatives. You are looking at your reflection. And maybe, just maybe, they are looking at you too, not with eyes, but with awareness. Because if the universe holds entanglement, if its smallest parts can remain linked, despite light years of space, then perhaps distance never mattered as much as we thought. Perhaps what matters is attention, and so you turn your attention outward, not to find answers, but to say something with your silence. A kind of hello, a kind of I'm here, a kind of waiting that feels like home, and in return, you feel it, a breath, not from lungs, but from the fabric of things. A shift, not in time, but in tone. The universe whispers back, not in words, not in facts, but in the subtle warmth that moves through your chest when you know something is true, before you can explain why. It whispers in the way leaves flutter, just as your thought changes. It whispers in the stillness that fills a room before love walks in. And tonight it whispers in the slow rhythm of your pulse and the way your breath matches the turning of a planet you cannot even feel move. You are not separate. You never were. Entanglement has always been with you, not as a strange phenomenon tucked into a physics textbook, but as a felt sense that you belong to something wider than your own skin. You are not only entangled with other particles, you are entangled with wonder itself, with questions that do not need answers, with beauty that does not need to be solved. And as you let go into sleep, you do not fall. You dissolve gently into the web of all things. And in this web, everything touches everything else, not in a crowded way, in a kind way, in a knowing way. You are not forgotten. You are not alone. Even in this moment, as your body rests and your thoughts grow dim, something ancient and immense keeps time with your heart, because the same thread that binds stars and photons binds you. You are not at the edge of the universe. You are inside it. And when it whispers, you feel it in your breath. You feel it now, softly. So sleep, entangled not in questions, but in peace. And tomorrow, when you wake, perhaps you'll carry this stillness with you. Perhaps you'll listen more closely. Because who knows, the next time you turn your head, or reach out your hand, or feel something stir without explanation, it just might be the universe whispering again.